This morning's plenary session focuses on industries that face more complex pathways to net zero, but ones that are essential to our modern lifestyles and have some of the most promising opportunities to transform our economy. So our next guest will share how the U.S. is rising to the challenge of building an efficient, reliable, and crucially more resilient electric grid, one that propels clean energy deployment at a pace needed to fight the climate crisis. Please welcome a dear friend to the Climate Registry and our first Individual Climate Leadership Award recipient from 2012, Assistant Secretary in the Office of Electricity at the Department of Energy, Jean Rodrigues.
This is no way to start day 2 of this important gathering, and I'll tell you why. Because Jen, for as nice as she seems, just filled you with misinformation, disinformation, and outright lies. Because I look at it like this: why on earth would you invite a grid guy to a gathering, a convening of our country's best climate leaders? Are you trying to bore people to death? I am not going to talk about poles and wires and their importance. In fact, I don't know what to say while I'm up here. Well, wait a minute. I think maybe, just maybe, I might have something to share with you of some interest. In fact, I might have 3 things. 3 important thoughts from a guy who used to be a climate guy, still is a climate guy, working on the grid. Thing number 1, well, before I get there, let me start off with this thought. In my new job, in my new role at the Department of Energy in the Office of Electricity, I focus on 3 things over and over and over again: reliability, resilience, security of poles and wires, and storage, which is semi-cool, on our nation's grid. But behind absolutely everything that I and my team do is the notion of important thought number 1. And that is this: why should climate leaders care about the grid? Thing number 1 is because a stable, reliable, resilient grid is the condition precedent for absolutely everything we want to achieve and accomplish, and absolutely must accomplish in the near term if we are to address the threat of climate change. And I say this not because I want you to think of the grid as some great enabler of climate leadership. It's not. But I say it's a condition precedent because if we don't have a reliable grid in this country, all the oxygen goes out of the room. All the attention will be on just restoring reliability instead of the work that needs to be done by each and every one of us in this room. And in the energy sector, that means that ensuring that this transformation that's occurring, not just of the grid, but of the energy industry writ large, includes and has at its core climate as its ultimate objective, and to ensure that environmental and energy justice is job number 1 as we work our way through this transition. So thing number 1 was the condition precedent. Thing number 2. Wait, are there any utility people in this room, or even ex-utility people? Yeah, I see lots of hands around there. You're going to know what I'm talking about right now. I'm going to tell you that grid modernization is the foundation for the integration, see how I did that? I really like alliteration, of making sure that the good work that has been done to date is is actually being used and useful because we need to integrate and we need to utilize clean energy at scale. So I will tell you right now, I used to work at a utility. I spent 24 years there, and I used to proudly brag about the big work that we were doing to ensure that we had more renewable energy resources than other utilities around the country, that we had more grid edge resources in the hands of consumers that were there. But the important thing was this: all that shameless bragging means nothing if we don't integrate it into the core of how utilities plan, invest, and operate. Let's quit celebrating potential and start rolling up our sleeves and working on the integration of clean energy at scale and an accelerated pace. So thing number 2 is modernization leads to integration of clean energy. And thing number 3 is this: grid reliability, grid resilience, grid security, and affordability aren't the things that make any one group special. Personal story here. For those who know me, my checkered past, my hippie upbringing, my environmental roots, in the role I'm in now, it required Senate, nominated by the president, but it required Senate approval. And in this day and age, where there's so much balkanization and quite frankly, rock throwing between the parties for no good reason whatsoever, I got through the Senate on unanimous consent. That meant every Republican, every independent, and every Democrat said, it's good enough. But that's an important thing, and I'll tell you why. We, those of us in the room who consider ourselves to be climate leaders, must necessarily recognize that it isn't our desire to address climate change that makes us special or different. It is our ability to reach out to people on any side of the aisle. So as I spend my time in Washington, D.C. now, as I talk to people on the Hill, I don't start off with climate. I start off with reliability. And every head in the room will always nod up and down. So let us find a way in our vocabulary, in our vernacular, in how we champion the work that needs to be done to reach across the aisle and find those people who we need to engage. And that gets me to, Jen, what will be my key point from today's talk. And I'm going to stay on time. Jen threatened me back. She, again, seems nice, very, very mean person. And I promised that I would try to keep this under 15 minutes, and I'm going to do that. So I'm going to give you the key takeaway of the points that I want to make here. Number 1 is, as you look at the grid, let's think about the potential. Don't celebrate the massive potential that's out there. Let's celebrate how we utilize it and how we in this room can help the industry focus on what's important, which is getting clean energy to scale. Let's not think of transmission as new corridors here and there, as the big wires, big helmets, big steel structures. Think of it as a way to ensure that we get clean energy from where it's being produced to every corner of the country where it can be consumed. Don't think of distribution systems, the wires and the buckets you see outside of your house as necessary to making sure your lights come on when you enter the room. Think of it as a way to engage every single American in what absolutely must happen in the near term, which is to start using energy in a way that actually produces reliability, but also reduces our carbon footprint. Decarbonization must always be our goal, but don't lead with decarbonization when you're trying to create a movement around what we need to accomplish. So that is the grid talk. Now come to, this should be my ask, but I'm not going to make an ask. I'm going to make a demand out of each and every one of us. Jen, you mislabeled this morning's plenary session as the great energy disruption. I don't care for disruption, and I'll tell you why. In the common vernacular that we use today, disruption always happens because of some business model ingenuity or some technological advancement. That's not really what we're doing. It's bigger than that. Bigger than that, Jen. Take notes. And disruption occurs because somebody somewhere, either in a garage in Palo Alto or goodness knows where, somewhere else, is working in the dark, these precious few people who are doing these amazing things that affect the rest of us. Well, we can't be in this room the precious few, those disruptors. Instead, what we must be are the happy warriors who are the tip of the spear, who bring everybody else in everything they do along in what is the most incredibly important mission of our lifetimes, and that is addressing the existential threat of climate change. That's why I was proud to take on a role in the Biden-Harris administration, because at the very top, into the Department of Energy was Secretary Granholm, and every person I have the tremendous opportunity and privilege of working with, they get it. They get it. We at the Department of Energy are proud to join you in this room as the folks who will be the few happy warriors who no longer seek disruption. We seek evolution and revolution. Evolution because it is inevitable. Evolution because you are unable to stop it. Evolution because it must necessarily change everything about the energy system today. Revolution because it's not just we happy warriors in this room, we few, but because we must recruit and get everybody outside of the four walls of this ballroom to be part of our revolution. So are you with me on that? Are we the people who are going to make a difference when we leave here today? What's the answer? Yes. Oh, you can do better than that on a Tuesday. What day is today? I don't even know what day it is. You can do better than that. Are we the few who are going to make a difference that really counts in addressing climate change? You bet we are. And with that, I yield the stage, Jen. On time, you owe me $5.